basically the main idea of this whole thing is that God holds accountable the people who are in leadership over his flock, but he also wants our hope to lie in him and not human shepherds, right? He the one that do it. You heard like all through. I really want to say uh, from verse 10 on to 16, he's saying, I will do this. I will. I will. All you see is I will. I will. I will. I will. So really, we're about to compare the two um, shepherds. The shepherd, a shepherd that's not doing the right thing, and the good shepherd, which ultimately is Jesus. Um, in this text, God is saying He's gonna restore His people. Um, so before we jump into everything, we can understand why God is saying all of this in the first place to them. So Ezekiel, he was ministering to um, the people during a dark period of Israel's history, like um, which is a common pattern we hear. But God's people was rebelling against Him at this time, and Jerusalem eventually they fell to Babylon, and um, they were people was taken into exile. They was taken from where they supposed to be, and the nation was devastated. They was in a bad place. Um, but a lot of times, when I read the Bible and I see God usually addresses the people, right? But not in this text. God's not only addressing the people; he's talking strictly to the leaders. Like I'm talking to the people who were supposed to keep my people, the people that were supposed to be the leaders in this thing. So these are people that's responsible for leading them. So throughout the Old Testament, you see shepherding as you could think of actual shepherd that stands in the field with a stick, shepherding the actual sheep. But they use the word shepherding as a picture of leadership. When you talk about a shepherd, you're looking at a leader, right? So when Ezekiel 34 is talking about shepherds, he's not talking about the actual men working with animals. He's talking about Israel's leaders, all the leaders that was there. So my question for y'all: what does a good shepherd actually do? If you think about one, you can even think about one that actually tends to animals. Yeah, 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 yeah. Um, so a shepherd, they protect, like I said, they feed, they guide, they watch them, they correct them, they search them, they go look for them, they find them. They care for when they hurt. They have to care for them when they're hurt, and they also keep the flock together. They don't want the flock. We don't want the flock to be scattered. Um, so all of those things are supposed to happen, and because God's now about to explain what happens when people who are supposed to be responsible for shepherding people stop acting like shepherds. This is when he about to tell them why. So I'm gonna read 1 through 3. It says, "Then his message came to me from the Lord." From Ezekiel is telling the people, prophesying or what the Lord said to him. "Son of man, prophecy against the shepherds, the leaders of Israel. Give them this message from the sovereign Lord. What sorrow awaits you shepherds who feed yourselves instead of flocks? Shouldn't shepherds feed their sheep? You drink the milk, wear the wool, and butcher the best animals, but you let your flock starve." So the list we just went down doesn't sound like that the shepherds are doing that to their people at this time, right? And so God asked them a question, which a lot of times God will ask a question. Obviously, He knows the answer to, but it's for them to reflect. He's saying, He asked them, shouldn't y'all be feeding the flock, right? Why are you not feeding the flock? And that answer is obvious. Yes, if you're a shepherd and people, you should be feeding your people, right? That's literally your job. If anything, you should be feeding your people, but obviously they're not because God's asking them that question. So instead of using their position to care for the people that God gave them, they were using God's people to benefit themselves. They said, He said, "Shouldn't the shepherds feed their sheep? You drink the milk, wear the wool, butcher the best animals, but let your flock starve. So you take him before you even doing anything for them, right? So it should have been the shepherd serves the sheep, not the sheep serve the shepherds, and that's what was going on at this time. They taking their milk for themselves. They taking their wool so they can have it. They're killing them so they can, butcher them themselves for themselves without even feeding them first, right? So they took, they enjoy what came from the flock without caring for the flock. Like I'm gonna take everything I can from y'all, but without even doing anything to care for y'all, take care of y'all, make sure y'all good. I'm going. They was taken first, right? Um. Um. Oh, I had a reference to Mark chapter 10, 42 through 45, and I'm just gonna tell y'all what he's saying. But right there, Jesus was teaching his disciples at that point that worldly rulers lord over people. But rulers, like actual leaders, don't do that. Not with us. We don't do that. If we're leaders, we don't lord over people, right? He says that a good leader is a servant, right? He says that he teaches that greatness in his kingdom look like servanthood. And if we think about Jesus, he came to serve, right? So that's what a good leader looks like, and these people were not doing that. Jesus himself said, for even the Son of Man came not to be served, but to serve, right? And so these people are not having good leadership, right? And so a lot of times we think of leaders and we think of just pastors, right? We think of like, oh, the pastor. You think about the shepherd. That's usually what the first thing you think of. But we all held accountable for this, as leaders. You could be a pastor, you could be a minister, Sunday school teacher, you could be a choir director, you could be a youth leader, you could be a mom, a dad, you could be a mentor. You said what? Yes, you could just be a believer. Anybody with influence, which as we walk around this world, we have influence on other people. It's not about the leadership position or the position that you're in. It's about are people being cared for in the position that I'm in? Not I got this position. Like you have to really look at, hey, are these people really being taken care of? Right? There's a difference of having a title. I can have a title without the responsibility. If I'm not doing, I can say I can be a parent and not be being responsible for my kids, right? Or I could be a teacher. I could be a regular person, not understanding that I have a responsibility to people, right? Yes. Yeah. Yeah. We was talking about that in women's ministry um, a little bit, where we was just talking about, not being rude. I love not being rude, and just understanding that, hey, I can't afford to do that. So, I can't afford to not think that I'm not responsible for. I think a lot of times I've walked around and thought I could do what I want, and I'm not responsible for other people's decisions. But my influence is very much responsible for other people. Yes, I'm held accountable for that, but also I am a representation of Christ. I can't do what I want to do, right? And so people can serve, and sometimes you can serve in church or serve in life and really just be feeding yourself. It's just beneficial to you, right? It don't benefit nobody else but you. You want recognition. You can want people to need you, right? I've been in that position a lot of times where feeling needed was some validation for me, more than actually just doing the act itself. Sometimes we want control. We want to have control over something. I like to be in leadership because I like to tell people what to do, or I like to, be in that position, or we want our name called, or we want to be, like I said, recognized. We want everybody to know what we did, and we want to feel important sometimes. And so, we can't look like we're serving God while we actually serving ourselves. And that's what these shepherds was doing at this time, just serving themselves. So um and so before we start pointing at just pastors or bad people you see that have influence, we need to look at ourselves. We all have influence on other people and say, what am I doing to serve God's people? Or am I using people to serve me? That should be the question we should ask ourselves. Because we tend to always point the finger at the biggest people. We all have influence. And it's not just the pastors and the ministers or the bishops or whatever, the people you see on spotlight. We all have influence. We all have influence. So that's what 1 through 3 was saying. He was asking them a question that was an obvious answer. Y'all should, and it's also, like I said, when God asks them questions, it be self-reflection. When I have to ask you, it's basically like, what are you doing? And it make you think like, dang, I am tripping. Why am I taking everything from them and I'm not doing nothing for them themselves? And so in verse 4, we're about to see who the shepherds were ignoring. They weren't only being bad shepherds. They were ignoring the most important people they shouldn't have been ignoring, right? Verse 4 said, you have not taken care of the weak. You have not tended to the sick or bound up the injured. You have not gone looking for those who have wandered away and are lost. Instead, you have ruled them with harshness and cruelty. So not only are y'all not shepherding people, the people that actually need you the most, those are the people y'all are ignoring, right? And so he's naming different conditions there in verse 4. He's saying, number one, y'all, you have not taken care of the weak. If somebody's weak, they need strengthening, right? He said you haven't taken care of the sick. They needed care. They needed healing. They ignored them people. The injured, they needed their wounds bound up. Y'all didn't pay attention to the people that are injured. The lost, they need somebody. People that are lost need somebody to go look for them, right? But the shepherds didn't do any of that. They were harsh and brutal to the flock, to those people, right? And so this just showed me God really cares how we handle people. He really does, because just because we're in leadership or we know something, it does not give you the right to mishandle somebody. It doesn't give you the right to do whatever you want with people because you are in this position of authority. You cannot do whatever you want with them. And so you can't tell somebody the truth and be cruel when you tell them the truth, right? It could be the truth, but you can't be mean about telling them the truth, right? So I had a reference to Galatians 6:1. Let me see if I can get to it quick. Donnie, you know what that says? Yeah. Dear brothers and sisters, if another believer is overcome by sin, you who are godly should gently and humbly help that person back to the right path, and be careful not to fall in the same temptation yourself. But we should be restoring people gently, basically. This is NLT, so it's say it different. But we should be restoring people gently. And like I said, in this text, God is addressing the leaders. That doesn't mean that the flock wasn't doing something wrong, right? That doesn't mean that the flock, the people that you have influence on still could be sinning. They could still be doing the wrong thing. But it's up to us as people who do have influence to restore them gently and not be harsh or mistreat them. We could tell them the truth and not be cruel. But these people, it's like somebody being not where you are spiritually. They weak. You looking at them and you like, I'm letting them for you. You all the way down. All the way down there. Or somebody who sick, or I'm gonna get into that in a minute. But yeah. So when somebody's caught in sin, Scripture says we should restore them gently, because restoration is the goal. The goal is for people to be restored back, not for people to stay scattered or stay in the space that they're in, right? And so I noticed also that different conditions require different responses, right? So he named different conditions. He said they were weak. He said they were sick, they were injured, there were wanderers, and they were lost, right? So you don't handle weak people the same way you handle rebellious people. You don't handle um, wounded people the way you handle stubborn people, right? There's difference between those things, between being weak and just being rebellious, right? Somebody might just be weak spiritually; they just don't know. Like somebody could be super rebellious. You handle those different. You can have somebody who is wounded, but um, the opposite of that is just stubborn. You don't want to be healed. You don't. You're not seeking any type of restoration. Those are people. This is different. But these people are actually weak. These people are actually wandering. These people are actually need help. These people are actually lost. And so sometimes as Christians we are good at identifying people's problems and not helping them. We can look at what's wrong with people, but don't do anything about it, right? Somebody hungry, you like just praying for them to get something to eat. You can just give them something to eat, right? We can identify that they need something without it, right? Or you can see somebody struggling, or they backsliding. They haven't been coming to church. Something's wrong with them. It just be looking at them and be like, oh, whatever. It is what it is, right? And some people are actually weak, and some people are actually wandering and lost and sick and need help, right? So what do we do about it, right? It's easy to notice somebody not being around, but it's different to actually go look for them, right? It's really different. It's easy to notice, oh, they ain't been coming to church lately. And I had that bad. Like, I was like, oh, I haven't seen them, but I won't reach out, right? I won't say, look and see it where they are. It's easy to like, oh, somebody's wounded, right? They're hurt, but it's different to go help bind the wound, right? What was you saying?
Basically the same thing.
Yeah.
He is literally telling us what we need to do in these type of situations.
Yeah.
And so I think it's what you've been saying. It's so easy for us to try to point out people's problems for one, and either just talk about it and do nothing about it, or try to solve it our way.
Yeah.
And we can't. Every situation is different. However, he says if they're sick, heal them. If
Mhm.
they're broken, bind them. If they you haven't brought back what was driven away.
Mhm.
If they're lost, go find them. So he literally gives us the answer to the problem.
Yeah.
And so I just think it's so important for us to continue to die to self, right?
Yeah.
Stop trying to do things in
Our way. Yeah.
strength or our mindset. To do
Mhm.
it his way.
Yeah.
And I think we have to recognize when he said I will. When he said I will means that he's gonna do it. And it's like, okay, you know what? You showed me this whatever's going on, I believe that you said we should do it. So however you see fit to use me to do it.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
not me, only you.
Right. Yeah. And they weren't. It's like y'all weren't doing that, right? There is when we went over earlier is what a shepherd does. We went down that list. Y'all not doing nothing that. So when God's speaking to them, it's speaking to like, oh, you know your responsibilities, and you're not doing any of those things. You're not doing none of it at all. Yes.
I was thinking just the last sentence of the text, I don't know, read right, but it's saying, but we treat these people cruelly.
Yeah.
Like, so we see that they got all these needs.
And being
They
me.
got all these problems. We
Yeah.
see that they're at their lowest point. Instead of helping them, we continue
Yeah.
to keep them depressed.
Yes, you kicking somebody while they down. Just put that. Yeah, it's like I said earlier. You could be like, oh, they know, or they know better. They got to figure if they got the same. I heard somebody say they got the same 24 hours as me. It's like that's kicking somebody while because obviously they're in a situation where they need help. They need help, and to just be like, I'm not about to do that for them. They can do the same thing that I'm doing. That's being harsh and cruel to somebody who needs people to help them. So verse 4 was just saying was showing who the shepherds were ignoring, who the people they were ignoring, the people that needed a shepherd the most. Verse 5 and 6 is we're gonna see the results of treating the sheep like that, right? says, so my sheep have been scattered without a shepherd, and they are easy prey for any wild animal. They have wandered through all the mountains and all the hills across the face of the earth, yet no one has gone to search for them. So because there's no proper shepherding, they were scattered, right? So, and now that they're scattered, they're vulnerable, right? They're in a position where anybody can, the prey can get them. They can devour them, right? And that's how it is for other people when we are not shepherding or we're not doing the right thing. As people who have influence, people get scattered, right? This shows us that leadership has consequences, and this is the consequences of that, right? Bad leadership can hurt people's relationship with church. It can it can confuse people. Nothing to do with y'all, right? And then we should I'm going to heaven, so I'm not worried about what you got going on, and that's not the mission here, right? It's not the point. Everything that we're doing is not for our own gain, for us to get all the crowns when we get to heaven, and everybody else that's not the goal, right? And our mission shouldn't just be out here just for self gain, so for self benefit, right? And so, mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, out, yeah.
So we all have to be on our post so that the entire thing is lit up. And when the entire thing is lit up, it attracts people to the star that's the top. Right?
Yeah.
And that's what we need to do. So we can't sacrifice our post, or we can't sacrifice who God is calling us to be, because it is interrupting or disrupting people's climb to get to that.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And this is where because it's the compassion. His compassion never fails. I had thought about God showed me Matthew 9 when Jesus traveled and was teaching the good news to people, and it says that Jesus traveled through the towns and villages of that area, teaching in the synagogues, announcing the good news about the kingdom, and he healed every kind of disease and illness. When he saw the crowds, he had compassion on them because they were confused and helpless, like sheep without a shepherd. When we look at people doing that, we shouldn't look at them in disgust. Jesus didn't even look at them like, they tripping. He automatically had compassion, like, oh, they need help. They need a shepherd. They need some guidance, right? They were being harassed. They're helpless. That's how Jesus looks at us. That's how he died. That's why he died for us, because we're helpless. We don't have, that's how he looked at us, and we shouldn't look down on people who are in those positions, right? And it takes for us to remember when he saved us, right? Or the position I was in, because we'll get so far gone without remembering where you came from, what God brought you out in the condition you were in, and how he looked at you. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm never in a position where I can look at somebody like that.
Yeah, at all. Go ahead.
Double down on that. His compassion never fails. He's always going to continuously come after his people, save his people, no matter what they're doing, how many times they fall down. He's always coming to show compassion on them.
Yeah.
And I think we have to take on that perspective, that mindset. It doesn't matter how many times we help that same individual continues to show compassion.
Yeah. 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 Because people people really are lost. Like people don't know. They don't know. And some, like I said earlier, there some people are stubborn. Some people, but that's not majority. Some people are just they don't know, right? And to look at people like that, or when we see somebody spiritually struggling, we automatically respond with judgment, right? Without compassion. And sometimes we like even somebody who's like grown, like that you feel like is spiritually mature. You be like they should know better than that. You should know better, and it's like maybe they should, but the point is that they still need shepherding. If they are doing that, they need They need shepherding now. That means that not yes. So it's like Jesus could look at us as broken people, and if Jesus can look at us as broken people and not be indifferent about us, not look at us crazy, we shouldn't do that to other people. And like I said earlier, like it doesn't remove personal responsibility. Maybe they should know better, right? We still have personal responsibility for the things that we do. But Ezekiel 34 is telling us at the same time, God's leaders are accountable for the people that he cares for. That's why he's addressing them. Yes, the people did something, but I'm talking to y'all. You are responsible for the people that are in your care, and I entrusted them with you, because these are my people, right? So, and we're gonna get into it. But the moment you don't do what you gotta do, I'm going to step in. I'm going to, because I can't leave them like that. I can't have them scattered. I can't have them not being taken care of. I take care of and I entrusted you with them. You're not doing your job, and that's why we lean on the good shepherd himself, not actual people, right? But that does not take away the fact that we have to do those things. Do it. Look at Jesus and how he treats us and treats other people that we don't think. Some people we don't feel like don't deserve it, or feel like Dede said, keep doing it over and over again. You ain't got I know me for a fact. If somebody keep doing something over and over, my compassion runs out. But I'm tired. I don't got no more. Hey, you can just stay wherever you at.
And that's the thing. Like,
Yeah.
God has given us, like our heart, our heart is peaceful and all that. God has the New Testament, we talked about last week. Yeah. He wrote his word on our heart.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So these things, we automatically know these things. So when we are tired, when we are growing, when we are sick, or somebody keeping testing, or like, I'm tired, I feel like I want to do this, like, that's why he is who he is.
Yeah.
Prayer, like, a lot of people like to discount prayer. Prayer is powerful.
Yeah, it is.
When you ask God, Lord, I don't know how to do this.
Yeah.
But you do.
Yeah.
You intervene.
Yeah.
That's powerful. That's
Yeah.
powerful.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because we get tired.
Yeah. We do.
And then a lot of times, like when people are in that broken state or lost state or whatever, like just because deep in us we do be like yearning to get right anyway.
Yeah.
And there comes somebody with their mess or their opinion or their judgment or whatever it might be that just turns their way, and a little bit of love and compassion.
Yeah.
It's really dang near magnified at that point.
Yeah.
In that state.
Yeah.
Because then we like the word say off stuff.
Yeah.
And that's what especially if they've been hurt by the people.
Yeah.
People of the church.
Yeah.
It's about the him and going back to what you said and what they said. It's not about us. It's about the him and
Yeah.
and if that's what's shining, that's what they're going to be drawn to.
Yeah.
Maybe the vessel is the him and that's
Yeah.
the word.
For sure. Yeah. Donnie, you had something? Yeah. 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 Yeah, for sure. Because yeah. But it's like that's exactly what God called us to be. And so when that's why you see when they did it wrong, people scatter, right? But when you have somebody who actually care, right? You actually see the love of Christ through somebody who actually does the good, doing shepherding like in the right way, because you gotta go see about people for sure. Yeah, 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 yeah. And sometimes I don't want to keep talking about them, but sometimes when you grow, right, and get more spiritually mature. Pastor, he do his little falling back, right? He gonna do, but that's what he's supposed to do. He's going to tend to the people that are lost and wandering and sick and wounded. So sometimes you be looking like, hello, but it's like that's what God called him to do, to go get the other people. You good. You need to just sit here. Like, what about me? That's how you be feeling like with him. But it's like, oh no, and God actually did reveal that to me in this study, because I was studying it for 2 weeks, but it's like, oh, that's what he be talking about. He always be like, you're good. I don't know what you're talking about. He'll just like put like, hey. But it's because the people that we are supposed to go help is the weak, the wounded, the broken, the lost, the people that are just out there. And that's for us too. When God uses him to help us to be spiritually mature, we should be doing the footwork with him. Like, we should be going out while he's shepherding the flock. We could be going out there doing, yes, doing all that other stuff. Mm-hmm. Yeah. 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 Other person. Yeah. Yes, that's why it's not just talking to pastors. We got to be out here tending to the weak and the lost. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Yes, we gotta go out. Yeah, for sure. Cause there's people out here really weak and they're lost and they need it. It's true. We should be bringing them, going out there doing the footwork, bringing them to a shepherd that we know is gonna, huh? Yeah. 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 We be trying. Yeah, for sure. We should be encouraging and having these type of conversations, so people can understand. A lot of people also don't think that they are qualified to do any of that, and we all are. We are all ministers of the gospel. If you know what Jesus did for you, we are all qualified to go tell somebody who about Jesus. Right? We ain't got to preach. We don't got to teach. And a lot of people feel like they're not qualified to do that, or have a conversation with somebody, or go up to somebody and encourage them, or go somebody. And I think that as people who might have more spiritual, we should be, hey, come, you can do that. You can go tell people about Jesus without being whatever you think it's supposed to look like, right? Yeah. The testimony of him is enough. Of Jesus, like, him saving us is enough to tell somebody, right? When I forget exactly who it was somebody. They was like telling them Jesus right here, and they like, Nazareth, like he didn't even explain. He said, "Come see for yourself." I don't have anything else to say. I told you who he is. Now, come see, and that's what we're supposed to do. Come see. If you don't know, just come see for yourself. I don't even got to do all that, because God is doing all of that, right? All right, 7 through 10. God right here is saying, enough with y'all. I'm through with you. These shepherds, y'all did all this, enough, right? Therefore, you shepherds, hear the word of the Lord. As surely as I live, says the sovereign Lord, you abandoned my flock and left them to be attacked by every wild animal. And though you were my shepherds, you didn't search for my sheep when they were lost. You took care of yourselves and left the sheep to starve. Therefore, you shepherds, hear the word of the Lord. This is what the sovereign Lord says. I now consider these shepherds my enemies, and I will hold them responsible for what has happened to my flock. I will take away their right to feed the flock. I will stop them from feeding themselves. I will rescue my flock from their mouths. The sheep will no longer be their prey. So right here, I just thought a guy becoming real serious with like, hey, he said, y'all my enemies, now, right? He said, I'm against y'all. I'm against the shepherds that do that, right? As much as I put them in leadership, he's also letting the people know, I don't play like that. I don't play like that. Regardless if they're your leader or not, I don't play like that, right? So, as much as they were supposed to be representing God, they weren't. And he's saying, I'm against what you're doing. Out loud, through Ezekiel saying, I am against that. I don't do that, right? And he says that he will remove the sheep from their mouths. It basically said, now these sheep don't belong to you at all, right? These sheep that I entrust you with, they're not even yours anymore. They're mine. But I don't even entrust you with them. You caused them to stumble and fail, right? And basically, they don't belong to you. They belong to me. That's what God's saying. They belong to God, right? And so, like I said, if you see it in that text, all you see is, I now consider these shepherds my enemies. I will hold them responsible for what has happened to my flock. I will take away their right to feed the flock, and I will stop them from feeding themselves. I will rescue my flock from their mouths. The sheep will no longer be their prey. And so God's letting them know these are my people, right? These are my people, right? So I don't know what I have for that. I had a reference to Acts, where Acts 20 and verse 28, Paul was telling church leaders that keep watch over yourselves and all the flock. Let me go to it because it says, okay. 20 and 28. So guard yourselves and God's people, feed and shepherd God's flock, his church, purchased with his own blood, over which the Holy Spirit has appointed you as leaders. So you are held at a high responsibility. These are people that were purchased by my blood. These are my people that you are playing with. And that's what God is saying here. That's where he got serious. It's like, these are not your people, these are mine. And so your responsibility is great, greater responsibility. I think it's in James where it's like the teachers and you're held at a different standard, right? James 3:1, because he was basically like, not all y'all should become teachers, because when you become one, you are held to a stricter judgment, right? It's not just being visible, right? Just because you're a leader, you got way more responsibility now. And so greater influence brings greater accountability. So just because you have a large platform doesn't mean that it's God's approval. Just because you're in that position don't mean God approved it, right? The title doesn't mean God approved it. Popularity doesn't automatically mean God's approval. God evaluates our leadership, and that's what he was doing here. Y'all, these are my people, and y'all are playing, and I don't play like that, And I gotta bring my people back. And so he evaluates us like, how are you treating my people? How are you treating my sheep? He looks at us like that. How are you treating the people around you? And instead of saying how many people I got influence over, you should be thinking about how you treat them. And how are you caring for people? Instead of worrying about the following, right? So, verse 11 is going to be our transition, right? Because verses 1 through 10 just showed us everything that's wrong with the shepherds that we're supposed to be shepherding. But beginning in verse 11, y'all gonna see, I will, I will, I will, I will, I will, what he's gonna do. Because now God is gonna start talking about what he's gonna do for his people. 11 and 12 says, for this is what the sovereign Lord says, I myself will search and find my sheep. I will be like a shepherd looking for his scattered flock. I will find my sheep and rescue them from all the places where they were scattered on that dark and cloudy day. So that I myself is powerful because the shepherds failed and God saying, I'll do it myself. They didn't search. God said, I will search. They didn't rescue them. God said, I will rescue them. They didn't gather them. God said, I will gather them. And I went back to Luke, or I think it's in Luke, where Jesus shepherded the 100 sheep, and the one of them was lost. And what did he go do? He went to go find the one lost one. He went to go after him. He didn't say, "Oh, I got 99. I don't need that other sheep." Right? Forget that one. He kept searching until he found that one sheep that went lost. So, this changes how we think about God. So, some people, and I'm just saying me, I used to think like, because I was wandering off and I was doing whatever I want, I got to find my way back by myself. And God is obviously saying here, I will come get you. I will rescue you. I used to think I got to figure out how I could get back to him. And that's not the shepherd that Ezekiel is describing right here. It's saying, God is saying here that I seek you, and I pursue you, and I rescue you, and I restore you. That doesn't mean that he approves of us wandering and do whatever we want to do, but it means that it doesn't change his character, right? Our wandering does not change his heart. It doesn't change his compassion. His compassion never fails, right? His love never fails. It don't matter what you got going on, God is still going to seek. He's still going to pursue because that is his character. That is who he is. And he's not leaving us out there.
I would say this made me think about, as a parent, there's this property outside, a lot of times people wander off, we did the other day, couldn't find them, everybody left the house to go see, where is he at, we were gonna find him. Now, I just left the house, and they knew because I just hopped in my truck and left, after calling his name, I couldn't find him, so my wife got her car, she drove the opposite way. Now, me saying that, but it just shows that the love of a parent, the love of your Father, our Heavenly Father, He's gonna come after His children. He's
Yeah.
gonna come to get His children
Yeah.
because He loves them.
Yeah.
He ain't gonna just let us wander and say, all right, well, I know we'll be back home, because they could be wandering and wandered into a situation where
Yeah.
they can't get themselves out.
Yeah,
You know what I'm
for
saying?
sure.
They wander in somebody's house, they don't even be.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
it just, that just shows me that God is, because He's our Heavenly Father, when we wander, He's come to see us out. Just like a missing child. He's come to see us.
Yeah, for sure.
Just to the leaders, to the shepherds, like he's trusted us so much that he's like, hey, I'm trusting y'all with guiding my children. I'm putting it in your hands, right? Although I'm putting this in your hands, I'm giving you a responsibility, but it's still like, even when you feel ready, I'm gonna come. I'm gonna come save you regardless. And so I think just from that perspective, it's important for us just to acknowledge that responsibility, right, that he's given us.
Yeah, for sure. It,
Responsibility, what is the true responsibility? You know what I'm saying?
of us.
We have these actions, but these actions come from a source. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So it's like we have to put ourselves in a position to be this.
Right.
It's not like this is just who we are.
Right,
And
yeah.
we do this by coming to the knowledge of God.
Yes.
Who he is.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Okay, well, what do you expect of me? How do I do it?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So how do we get there? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think like you said, you get there by knowing who the good shepherd is for us to even know how to be a shepherd, right? We can't know how to influence anybody without knowing who the good shepherd is, which is Jesus. We got to get to know how he treats people, how he deals with people, how he does it. Modeling him, we have to literally do what he does. Get in the word. We gotta know him. We gotta figure out who he is, literally. And I mean, like, we can hear all day. I mean, really reading and literally understanding what he did, like who he said, and to believe, you got to know who he said he is, right? And then you can believe who he said he is, and then trust him in who he said he is, right? So Jesus also tells you exactly who he says he is. And read John, you're gonna hear who he said he is. I'm the bread. I'm the light. I'm the true vine. I'm the good shepherd. I'm the way, the truth, and the life. I'm the resurrection. Like, he just tells you exactly who he is. And so, for us to be able to do anything, we gotta know who he is. There's no way, like you said, it does not come from us naturally. We naturally don't know how to do that. That's why God is literally taking over in this text. Like, oh, y'all playing, right? So he's telling them, like, we about to hear all these I wills. He's about to say, I will. 13 through 15, he's saying, did I read? Oh, okay. I will bring them back home to their land of Israel from among the peoples and nations. I will feed them on the mountains of Israel and by the rivers and all the places where people live. Yes, I will give them a good pasture land on the high hills of Israel. There they will lie down in pleasant places and feed in the lush pastures of the hills. I myself will tend to my sheep and give them a place to lie down in peace, says the sovereign Lord. So he said, I will bring them out. I will gather them. I will bring them home. I will feed them. I will tend them. And so what do we see? Look who's actually doing the work. God, not really us, right? God is actually the one doing the work. And the reference scripture I had for this, it just sounded exactly like Psalm 23. The Lord is my shepherd. I shall not want. He makes me lie down in green pastures. And so I'm going to read it, actually, because we're going to talk about it. I would say I know it, but I ain't about to be too confident in myself. Surely goodly. Yes. But I want to speak to this because to hear the language of how David is saying, the Lord is my shepherd. I have that I need. He makes me lie down in green pasture. He leads me beside the still waters. He renews my strength. He guides me along the right path. Bringing honor to his name. Even when I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will not be afraid. For you are close beside me, your rod and your staff protect me and they comfort me. You prepared. I'm not going to go into that. But basically, David's saying he makes, right? He leads, he restores. And so David's confidence wasn't in the fact that he was a good sheep. His confidence was in the good shepherd, not in himself, right? And so he just knew that I have a good shepherd, and that's why I have these things. That's why I'm able to have peace. That's why goodness and mercy is following me, right? And so our confidence can't be in, I got the perfect pastor, right? Or I got the perfect church. Or I got the perfect parent. Or I got the perfect. Our confidence is not in that. It's in the Lord, and that's it, right? So because human shepherds are still human. They are human beings. They're going to fall short, right? And our only security is in God himself, right? The Lord is my shepherd, right? We have shepherds. There's people that are here at leadership, but our full reliance should not be on human beings. It should only be on the Lord, right? People can disappoint you without God abandoning you. And that's a big thing that you see. Like, people think when people disappoint you, God left you. Now, God never left you, right? People can mishandle you without God forgetting you. God did not forget you. People mishandled you, not God, right? And so people can overlook you without God. God never lost sight of you, but people might overlook you. And that's where we have to look at him. That's why we get to know who he is, because when people disappoint us, when people don't do the things that you think they're supposed to do, we have full reliance on God. That's what keeps you worshiping him. That's what keeps you coming to his house. That's what keeps you wanting to do his work, is him. It's not has nothing to do with people and what they do, because people are going to fail. God's love never fails. God's compassion never fails. Who he is never fails. His character never changes. He is the same all the time. People aren't. And that's not a jab at people. That's just people, right? That's just people. And that's the point of it. It's like, although God is going to deal with people not doing the right thing, but to have full reliance on him, you start looking at people differently. You don't look at them for on reliance on them. You don't look at them. You can have compassion on them. You can have grace when they do something wrong because you know who's ultimately doing everything in the first place, right? It's not the people. And so human failure does not change his character at all. Not at all. And then the last verse is 16. It says, I will search for my lost ones who strayed away, and I will bring them safely home again. I will bandage the injured and strengthen the weak, but I will destroy those who are fat and powerful. I will feed them. Yes, feed them justice. So, if we look and compare verse 4 and verse 16, the bad shepherds, they didn't strengthen the weak. They didn't heal the sick. They didn't bind the injured. They didn't bring back the people that were wandering. They didn't search for the lost. Verse 16, God is literally saying the opposite. He's saying, I will search for the lost. I will bring back the stray people. I will bind up the injured. I will strengthen the weak. So everything that they failed to do, God says, I will do, right? And that's the whole point of the passage itself, is that everything that people fail to do, God will do. Everything that we look for out here in people, in life, God says, I will, right? I will do that. I will love you. I will do all of that stuff. And then he also says in this verse that God, he said, I will deal with the strong, basically all the people that abuse you. I'm going to deal with those people, right? I'm going to deal with with justice. And so his shepherding is not just comfort, it's also justice, right? He's just. You got to deal with it. You got to deal with him. And so, God's compassion doesn't cancel his justice, and his justice doesn't cancel his compassion, right? He's both. And so, if we can connect all of this, like we know, if we don't know, Jesus is the good shepherd, right? And that's in John 10 and 11. He says, I am the good shepherd. The good shepherd lays down his life for the sheep. And so, Jesus is saying, I'm the good shepherd, right? The wicked shepherds use the sheep for themselves, and Jesus gave himself for the sheep, right? He laid his life down for us. And so Jesus sacrificed himself for the sheep. And I just put here that Jesus is the chief shepherd, and we serve under the chief shepherd. So as much as we might have a position of shepherding or influencing a crowd of people, we reference Jesus. We go back to Jesus. Jesus is the actual chief shepherd. So if you are of any influence, right? And so what does that mean for us, right? What does all of this mean for us? So if God, here's one thing I have. There's 3 groups of people, right? If God has called you people to lead, shepherd them in the right way, right? If he asked them if you should be looking at who's weak, right? Who's wounded, who's wandered, who's disappeared. Don't just count on the people that's present, the people that you see, the people that's showing up. Go look for the people that ain't showing up, right? Don't just count on them. Notice who's missing, right? And help bind them. 2, the second type of person, if you have been hurt by a shepherd, right? Don't confuse them with who God is, who Jesus is, right? This passage is literally telling you that people are going to fail. And it exists because the fact that people do fail, and God knew that, and he confronted it. So somebody representing God poorly does not mean that they represented God, because they didn't, right? If they have a bad representation of him, that doesn't change who God is. So human shepherds can fail while the good shepherd remains faithful. And there's another group of people, somebody who's actually wandering, right? There could be somebody listening that is actually the person that's actually wandering itself. Just encouragement that the shepherd is still calling you, that he's still coming to see you, right? Maybe you're not in a position where you leading anybody right now, or you're not, or you're the person that needs to be saved, right? You're weak. This is not just a warning to the leaders, it's an invitation to people who are wandering, like God's saying, come back. I will search, I will bring you back, I bind, I strengthen. Matthew 11:28 says, come to me all who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. God said he'll tend to his sheep and he'll have them lie down. He'll do it. So if you are wondering, God will come see about you and restore you and bring you back. He's not leaving you out here. So if you are any of those categories, this whole thing speaks to anybody that is any of these positions. Yeah, it just teaches us that God really cares about how we treat his people. He expects us to do the right thing with his people, but ultimately that our hope lies fully in him. And where people fail, he's right there. He never fails, right? We belong to him. Everybody belongs to him. And he does not abandon those people who belong to him. And that's all I got.